My name's Michael, and I'm going to begin by saying that there was once a pastor who walked into a bar and started asking people about their tattoos. Now, it sounds like a bad joke, but it's actually kind of how this...
With a pink shirt on.
Yeah.
With carrots on them.
Well, yeah. It sounds like the start of a bad joke, but it's actually how this got started. So this very much is about listening, learning to listen, hearing people's stories, hearing what's underneath the ink.
But part of the story that I told the day that I met Michael, I had never told before. I had never told anybody in my life. I told him later on, I said, I feel like I left a demon in the bakery that day, and I hope he's having fun eating all the donuts and stuff, but, he's not with me anymore. Because of so much of that stuff I had kept to myself. And when I was 16 years old, my dad was a preacher. He was a youth director and a bus director in a church. He taught me basically what you would expect to hear from a Baptist preacher my whole life. And then when I was 16, he began to have a relationship with my ex-girlfriend who was a year younger than me. It destroyed my life. And I was very, very angry with my father. So at 16 years old, I said to myself, I will never, ever forgive my father for what he did, ever. And I know that there will be a day when I will want to. And so I took a knife and cut a gash in my arm. I'm sorry. And he helped me see that that was really my first tattoo. And then 2 years ago, my granddaughter was born, first granddaughter. And I realized at that time, so much of my life had been about him and being angry at him, and I needed a new focus. So her name is Melody, and I got a tattoo of a music staff with music notes on it over his scar. They do their best to make it very comfortable, very welcoming. They have them normally in a well-lit, busy environment where you don't have to feel like you're meeting somebody in a dark hole somewhere. And they're never like, you should go to church tomorrow. Hey, they really just they're listening. They just listen.
Yeah, so my parents are recovered addicts. My mom relapsed when I was in high school. So the birds that I got as my first tattoo when I was 16 was to kind of commemorate the time that it took for us to rebuild, like as a family, for me to rebuild that relationship with my mom. So, this giant piece on my arm here is a bunch of flowers and a ladybug, which is the only color tattoo that I have. And it is resting on top of a magnolia, which is the flower of the dead in Spanish culture for Dia de los Muertos. And when I was 16, my uncle passed away. When I was a kid, I was probably about 2 or 3. I drew him this picture, and he kept it for his entire life. The entire time that he was with us, he kept that picture. And it's literally just a giant red scribble with some black dots. And I told him, I said, Uncle Michael, it looks like a ladybug. And he was like, you know what, kid? Sure does.
Waiting here, nothing's clear. Show me where. I've been waiting so long, waiting on my knees. All that lies before me.
I think Everett was the first interview I got to sit down with when Michelle made the post on what's happening in Trustful. And you brought your fiance, Leanne. And I remember sitting down, I was like, okay, let's just go for this. Let's do this. And I remember Leanne was like, hey, she said something to you like, who's this guy that wants to sit down with you and hear about your tattoos?
Yeah, she was so sketched out.
I mean, I get it. It's like, wait, why are you meeting a stranger to hear about your tattoos? You know, but thankfully you were like, let's do this.
Yeah, this one on my wrist. I grew up I'm kind of a rock and roll fan, and through middle school and high school, there was a band that I always liked who went by the name of Him, H-I-M, and they were kind of heavily involved with skateboarding at the time, and I want to get like a Him tattoo since they're disbanding, and it kind of went along with it because it was like the death of the band, they're calling it quits, and they had a song called Funeral of Hearts, and so I got this tattoo. It's a casket with 2 hearts in it that are kind of conjoined, but it's every man dies, but not every man truly lives, which is something I stand strongly with, because I feel like every day, you know, people, you know, they wake up, they go to work, pick up their kids, and they just live a day-to-day life, but they're doing that because they have to do that to survive, but they're not enjoying the small things in life. Like, there's so much stuff out there and so much to see and enjoy, and not everyone pays attention to that. They just get by doing what they feel they have to do, and next thing you know, like, their time's been wasted.
And I have gotten a tattoo each year for the past 5 years, but they were all leading up to this tattoo, to this half-wing tattoo. It has, for me, just layers upon layers of meaning. And I was raised in a very unbalanced and unhealthy family. And I was told or heard or read multiple times through my childhood that a parent is supposed to give their child roots and wings. And I didn't get those. So I left the house and I did my thing, and I found my own stability, found my own way. And so a huge part of what this symbolizes for me is those wings that I didn't get as a child. This wing for me represents freedom, a freedom from things of the past, a freedom that I cling to, and a freedom that I'm constantly pursuing. And so, also just thinking about this since our interview, life is pain. And change is pain, and learning is pain, and getting a tattoo is a lot of pain. And so when I see that's someone that doesn't run from pain. That's someone who says, this is life, this is beauty, this is my story. And it's just freaking cool. And on top of that, my husband, a lot of times when we go somewhere crazy, he'll wear a top hat, and some people will give him a weird look and walk away, and some people come up and like, that's a cool hat. And they start talking. And so tattoos, I've found, do the same thing. They repel people who are going to judge you based off of that shell, and they attract people who want to know more. And
Cool. Well, what was it like to be interviewed by us? That's the question Michael has been asking.
But it made me realize it's the first time in my life that I've sat down and talk to someone who wanted to listen with no agenda. We live in a salesy world. We live in a preachy world. We live in a... most people listen to respond or to pull something out of the conversation to sell or to bring you into something or whatever. So I was kind of just waiting for that. Oh, hey, you should come to our church. Oh, hey, you should do this. Oh, hey, you should do that. And I was like waiting for it the whole time. And it never came. And I was like, okay. So it's just a story. It's just wanting to, like you said, learn how to listen. And I loved just the transparency of that, because we don't listen. We don't just sit down and say, tell me your story. What's up? What's your heart? Because it's literally on your sleeve.
Oh, it's so hard to let go. Lord, give me strength to let go.
I don't know how this happened. It took me by surprise. And the moment it was over, like lightning crossed the sky, and my blood runs cold every time I think of life without you. When I get lost, I can't go on. I know you will find me wherever I may go. You always seem to know.
The one on the back side of my arm,
It says we're all heathens, written in Old Fothrark rune alphabet, which is kind of what was used by the Vikings and a lot of the Nordic countries. It kind of started with, back when we were in the video, about how I came out and said I wasn't a Christian myself. It was kind of my way of just, like, when people did kind of judge me as not being a Christian, being like, it's kind of my way of being like, well, we're all kind of sinners in a sense. We're all human beings. We all sin. We all, just in a human way, in the best way, everyone's trying to just be selfless in a way. But in a positive aspect, I think sometimes it's great to be able to talk about yourself and to talk about your ideas, your past, or to open up and just let yourself be known to the fullest extent.
Tell us about that little ribbon. We talked a little bit about that. That was pretty cool. That's special to you as well, because it represents a person in a community, right?
Yeah, so the ribbon is for it's gastroparesis awareness. It's a disease that's not hardly known at all, and there's no cure. There's really hardly anything known about it. The person who has it that I know he's the owner of a haunted house that I started working at. It's the place I met my wife, and he's one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life, and he's a huge role model. Such a great person. He does nothing but care for everyone else. He's able to rally just the most, I guess, societal thrown out people, the most misfit people that have come into this home that we've made in this haunted house.
This is about tattoos, and it's not about tattoos, because it's ultimately about connecting with another person. So, I don't have any tattoos, which is funny. Like, I've got all this together, and I don't have any.
We've decided he's going to do it in front of all of us next time.
So,
Have any tattoo artists?
okay. But we all have stories, right? And it's being able to sit down and listen to each other.
You had asked me something along the lines of, like, why do you think people get tattoos? Or, like, something like that. And, I went to the phrase of, picture's worth 1,000 words. And we cover ourselves with pictures, so it's our way of covering ourselves with our thousands of words. So we put ourselves on our skin, in a way.
So, and it's okay to ask, right?
Of course. I love talking about my tattoos.
When I come to you, a tired and weary drifter, would you always welcome me home? You laid the path before me, so I don't need to wonder where to go. I know that I will stumble, and I know that I will fall. Lord, you're never far, and I'm always gonna fall in your